Hello and welcome everybody to episode 34 of Kerbal Space Endeavour. In the background you'll see the Duna satcom mission is being built, but I want to talk about something else for now. So I am back from London. I am eager to do more and more episodes. Things are going to crank up. As you can see right here, we have a lot of maneuver nodes coming up, a lot of transfer windows, and more and more. Well, we're going to go bit by bit. I'm going to show this episode in order as I have been playing it. There's going to be a lot of swapping back and forth because a lot of these maneuver nodes were happening at the same time, but somehow I did manage that I didn't have to do two things at completely the same time. So let's finish the building here, and this is going to be our Duna mission, just the satcom mission for Duna. And while constructing it, I realized I am missing something, and we need a lot more xenon gas before we can launch this. So let's go back to the ground, where we have, after a couple of days, built another space parts truck. Yes, I never came around to renaming it. And we're going to put, once again, some more food and xenon gas up to our station in orbit, and once that was completed, we are ready to launch and get ourselves away from the shipyard out into the open, into a stable orbit where we just have to wait for a little while until we get there. So yeah, by the design you can see it's a lot different because Duna is an atmospheric planet. I will try to use these properties to my advantage and slow myself down significantly enough and save lots of fuel. I have a big communication satellite. I have two small ones which will go around the planet of Duna itself, and then we have a Surveyor 1 and a Surveyor 2. One which will go in a very low orbit, and the other one will go into a high orbit, from which they will start mapping the planet and therefore finding locations for us that will be of interest, or actually detecting biomes, so we know where we want to land when the time comes that we send a manned mission there. But let's move on, and after a little bit of time acceleration once again, the next thing is coming up, and this is the first launch towards Jool. This is our lathe station, which is going to pretty much, it's a station that has all the essential parts that I need to build a, what do we say, a continuous base that can supply certain amount of Kerbals when the time comes. But right now it is unmanned, it has a single engine, it is not too heavy, it only weighs about 36 tons if I remember correctly. But yeah, after a while of burning we do get our encounter, and with the focus view ability that we have in the game we can actually start to get things fairly close. But then I started accelerating more and more, and I was trying to get as close as I can to Jool, but not too close, so I still have the option to either try an aero brake or do not try an aero brake. I am not sure if this station could hold out that much, so yeah, I'm just gonna set myself an alarm clock and we move on to the next thing. So yeah, the next thing we're doing is our Julian satcom mission. As you might notice, the video is a little bit laggy here. That is not because the video is laggy, it's the game was laggy as hell, because my satcom missions seem to have a lot of parts on them and it makes the game lag a lot. In the future I'll try to build things that are a lot less part-wise things, I don't know, and it should run a lot smoother. So yeah, this, as you remember, is the Julian satcom mission. It has one main dish which will go into a polar orbit around Jool, and we have 4 small satellites which will go probably between Jool and Lathe, or maybe further out. I haven't decided yet. I will decide that when the time comes, but right now we have a pretty close encounter. I'm just going to set myself another maneuver node just in case, so we can adjust our trajectory if need be. But let's once again fast forward until some time passes. I think it's about 4 days. Yes, it was 4 days, and our next thing happened. And the next thing is another satcom mission, but this is the Layeth satcom mission. This craft here pretty much has satellites for just Layeth. The Julian has just for Jool. And I'm not going to send any more satcom missions for any of the other moons, because once we are actually there and we've prepped up the base that I intended to build there, we will start building crafts in the Julian system and saves ourselves the long journey that it takes to get from Kerbal to Jool, which is approximately between 1 year and 400 days, or even longer, depending on how you set your maneuver. But yeah, we just ditched some stages, and I'm of course skipping a lot of the burn time I have there. I sat a long time on the computer watching pretty much the burns going on and on and on, and meanwhile I just read a book. So yeah, for most of these launches I actually had to sit around for about 20 minutes or more before I could do anything again. So therefore this episode has a lot of time. Well, actually the recording was a lot, and I had to cut it all down and fast forward most of it to keep it interesting and entertaining for you guys. But let's move on. We have Wilgus and Barfen Kerman, who I have decided will go to Jool. These poor fellows have to be friends, because they're going to be stuck a long time before there's going to be anybody else they will be able to talk to. So yeah, we're going to send these two guys out to our base, or Layeth base, which is going to launch at the very last towards Jool. And we're just gonna mess around here with our setup until we get a fairly good encounter fairly quickly, because we are running out of time. So yeah, the plan is we send all of the equipment to Jool already. The last equipment that we're sending is the base for Layeth, and that is the only mission that is actually manned. And we're just going to take these two, because I don't know how much food I will require and how much food is going to be used up. I did pack more than enough. We have some life support refresheners. We have the carbon dioxide recycler, and we have the water purifier, but they only do so much. So once these two guys get to Layeth, the base is set up, they can start producing new materials, they can start producing their own food, and hopefully we get a self-sustaining base going. Once the setup is complete and they are prepped and ready, the next window for Jool, well, Kerbal to Jool, will be used so that we can send more and more crew towards them, pretty much. And then they will be able to build more crafts and more satcom missions or whatever we need in the Julian system, and we can then explore the rest of the planets there. So yeah, now we're going to jump ahead to a mission that we launched a long time ago, and this is the Dres satcom mission, if you remember from a while back ago. And it seems like that I've brought way too much fuel with me, more than I would have needed. But hey, it's always better to bring more and have enough than being stuck in space, running out of electricity, fuel, or even worse, snacks. So yeah, this is a very old craft. This is pretty much the same design that we had for Moho. We have one satellite dish that is pretty much the main satellite that is going to direct back towards Kerbal. We have a surveyor on it, and yeah. So after a little bit of burning, we actually get a fairly close periapse. And we're just gonna set ourselves another alarm clock when we reach it, because it is still that far away. Now the thing is, we need to detach one of these crafts here, and this is the surveyor, which we need in a polar orbit, while the satcoms are going into an equatorial orbit. So we set ourselves up once again, and now we have to, yes, of course, thanks to Remote Tech 2, a lot of clicking and figuring out what is going where, why is going something, where and how and everything. So yeah, this is an old design. This is only a fairly close surveyor. It only has the one for the low altimetry resolution, so pretty much we have to go into 250-kilometer orbit to have the best or the ideal position for the radar scan. So yeah, we're just using our wonderful ion engines, for which I have brought way too much fuel. And yeah, what is the observation telling us? Well, that was boring. Oh well. And yeah, it seems pretty much set. We're gonna start the multispectral scan so we can actually start mapping the biomes as well. Keep in mind, this is still not version 0.90. These are the biomes by the original modder. And if we take a look through ScanSet, we are not nearly close enough to have discovered anything yet. So, yeah, on to the next thing. The glorious next thing, which is our lathe station. If you remember, just this episode ago, we set up a maneuver node to get even closer to Jool, and the flickering of the trajectory is really annoying. I don't know why two encounters are so close to each other, but oh well. Moving on, we still have to get the crew to our base for lathe, and well, thanks to Kerbal Alarm Clock, we have pretty much always something to do when you launch such multiple things all at the same time. So yeah, we're getting closer and closer. Business as usual, just a normal rendezvous in space, though it is in a very high orbit around Kerbal. Now, I do have a grappler on the front of this craft, so I could have grabbed a hold of the lathe base. However, I had some bad experience in the past where things would crash and the game didn't work so well, so I decided let's just fly things over as intended, because there's not a single docking port open for docking either. So yeah, we have Barfin and Wilgus Kerman trying to get out, and one thing that I forgot to attach to our lathe base was photovoltaics. I do have a reactor on board which has enough uranium to run for about a little bit more than a year continuously, but I don't want to use up any already refined uranium if we don't have to, so we're just going to use these photovoltaics to keep the life support running. And if we do run low out of power, because the further we get away from the sun, the less power the photovoltaics will give us, I will have to turn on the reactor from time to time so our good Kerbals don't freeze to death. So it seems like our base here is spinning a little bit, which was inconvenient, but it didn't matter too much because we were flying over and these guys are very agile and very good at it. So this is the 6th photovoltaic we're going to attach to the craft, and there we go. And now we have both of our guys prepped and ready to go to Jool themselves, while our good crew transport is going back home. And cool enough, once I was making a maneuver burn back home, I saw we were getting actually fairly close to Mun, and Mun is actually helping us to save a lot of fuel by getting us even closer to Kerbal without the use of any fuel, all thanks to the glorious thing called gravity. Alright, while this is going back, let's move on and have the wonderful rushing sound of the engines as we burst towards Jool. We're going to leave the colony logistics hub behind because we will not need it on this craft any longer. It could be recycled or picked up or whatever I'm going to do with it. Right now it will be floating around in space, and maybe we'll pick it up with Oscar. I don't know yet. But yeah, we have launched the base, the last piece that needs to go towards Jool. And once again, I watched this while reading a very good book, because it took forever, and ever, and ever, and ever. Once we actually ditched the solid rocket fuel boosters. Wow, my tongue really doesn't want to work with me today. And we drop the next stage. And of course, we have still more things to detach. More things to detach. Yes, there we go. Things detach. So yeah, now we only have atomic engines left on this that still have, hopefully, enough fuel to get us where we need to be. And as you can see right here, I actually set up a maneuver that would actually get me already into an encounter with Layth, but because my burn was not done perfectly, I wasn't able to get the encounter as I've wished, and I'll get there later, which will not give me the ability to get to Layth. Still, I don't know if I'm going to use Jool as an aero brake or if I'm going to use Layth as an aero brake, but we'll see when we actually get there. So yeah, back to the crew transport, using Wonderful Moon's gravity to get us closer to Kerbal. We just go down to Periaps, target our shipyard Shangri-La, and just plan a normal maneuver. Business as usual, business as usual. I actually, once I reached Periaps, I actually got into fairly close to an encounter, and I used that encounter because I still had more than enough fuel, and yeah, why not use an opportunity? Seize it when you can, leave nothing, take everything. So yeah, we're just going to go in for a normal docking right here. Business as usual, business as usual. I'm just going to show this because I wanted to show off that I can actually use the wonderful docking alignment indicator mod, and with it, docking is easy. And I say easy because it is really, really easy now. I remember at the beginning of the game when I had struggles doing dockings. Now it just is like with a wink of a hand, so very easily. Okay, back to Dres. We actually managed to get to Periaps, where we're going to break down and get into a 1,000 kilometer orbit. Now, we wanted to detach the second satcom, and somehow there is a little bit of a problem. If you look in the top left corner of the screen, I don't have any control whatsoever. Once again, I have a satcom problem. And I didn't have any RCS on board, and then things started to wobble. I'm like, oh, okay. And with a little bit of luck, as you can see, the magnetic forces saved my butt, and I was able to reattach it and fix it. The problem was that one of these satellites right here was not directed at the proper other satellite, and therefore it didn't work. But now that it does work, we can jump on to the next thing, and that is the ELU mission. This is a little bit different to all of the other missions I've done so far. I'm just going to send one big satellite to ELU, and that one will go into a low orbit and survey it with the radar scan, and then it is going to go into a higher orbit and give us the even better resolution pictures of the planet itself. It's probably going to take quite a long time for this craft to get there. I think it was about 3 years and 500 days until it's going to get there. So yeah, this is going to take a while before we're going to see that craft arrive at its destination. So now let's move on to where we actually get fairly close with our second maneuver node. That will be in quite some time. Now let's go and look at the last mission that is going to be launched from the Kerbal in this episode, and that is our Duna mission. It's a little bit different to the other missions that we've sent off to. We have one main dish, which is going to be the main communication satellite. We have two small ones, which will circularize around the planet, and then we have two surveyors, Surveyor 1 and Surveyor 2, for low and high resolution pictures of the planet itself. Once again, we skip ahead here a little bit and watch as we get very, very close here. It's still wobbling because we're so far out. The maneuver node, or the maneuver itself as it is pictured right here, it kind of wobbles around because every little slender of the vehicle changes the trajectory just by a tiny little bit. So yeah, our wonderful Kerbal alarm clock is filled with things to do, and the next episode will be probably just as much things happening as it was with this episode. We still have to prepare for Eve, and the thing is about Eve and Duna, we probably are going to finish Eve and Duna long before the first thing will arrive at Jool, but we will see about that. It all depends on timing. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you guys is the Dres mission, where I finally put the two satcoms into a orbit completely on the opposite side of each other, and the surveyor will be in a polar orbit in the middle and supplying us with good pictures of this wonderful planet. Now, I am back. Thank you guys for being patient with me. I hope you enjoyed this episode. More things are going to happen in the next episode, but until then, my name's Antilles.